Hello and welcome to Bring the Ring, a new way to handbell. My name is Brenda Austin, and it is my sincere hope that through connecting with us today, you will be inspired to use handbells to make a difference, to add value to our world. Let's get out there and bring the ring. Hello and welcome to Bring the Ring. So excited to have you here today at Bring the Ring. We're just connecting with one another and talking to composers that are actually alive and figuring out how we can make a difference, how we can change the world with handbells. Today we have with us Matt Compton, and he's from Vancouver, Washington, and started ringing and composing handbells in the 8th grade with his first published piece when he was 15, and has since then had a bunch more stuff published and is an avid performer, clinician, conductor, anything handbells. Matt is your guy. Also, kind of like his day job, he is the director of music at Salmon Creek United Methodist Church, and also is the director for the Bells of the Cascade. So, Matt, welcome. So glad to have you here.
Thanks. Yeah, I was really excited to get the invitation. So thank you. I'm excited. This is a really cool series to kind of start having these podcasts, because I think it's always cool to hear the other side of the piece from the composers. And so I'm excited to see the different podcasts you do with other composers. But thanks for having me.
We had to have you because one of the best-selling pieces in the Hope catalog has been your Toccata on King's Weston. And I'm just like, did you have any idea that it would become so popular when you wrote it?
No, not really. When I wrote the piece, I finished it. I was like, wow, this is a cool piece. I like it. And then I used it with this summer handbell ensemble that I directed in Colorado Springs at my home church. Every summer, we'd get about 14 people from the church who just wanted to play. And so we would do two pieces. And so I used this piece with them, and they really liked it. But I definitely didn't think it would hit the popularity that it has. When I write a piece, I just kind of go, okay, I like it, and then I just kind of hope for the best. So it's been really cool to see all the different takes on the piece through festivals, community ensembles, church ensembles, and all the different videos that people have been posting. It's been really, really humbling and just really cool to see something that I'm proud of kind of take off like it has. So it's really been a cool experience to see this piece do so well.
Yeah, and I've used it. I used it at my church, and then I've conducted it at a couple of festivals. And what I have noticed is that people love to play it, and so then they request it. Can we do it again? And I think that's one of the neatest things about you, and one of your strengths as a composer is that you are an avid ringer, and so you know what ringers want to do and what they like to play, and so then you write for them and they love playing your music.
Well, thank you. You're right, because I do take a lot of that into account for how much I look for in a piece of music and what I look for. And so I appreciate that it comes across with my compositions. Because I do look for that, where I will talk to ringers about how, the dreaded B6 C7 spot is the worst position to play. So I try to actively write something that gives them interest as best as I can. Um, and so it's been a lot of fun to go through different compositions and try and write that. So yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
So the other thing that I like about that piece is that it's fun to play and it's interesting, but then you also make my head hurt because with the whole inversion of the melody, what were you thinking there?
That was right around the time where I was learning about retrograde and inversion and music theory. So for the music theory nerds out there, or for anyone, a little lesson for today. Retrograde just means that you play the melody backwards, and inversion is you flip the melody upside down. And so it was just totally an idea where I was like, I'm just going to try and see if it works. And so I flipped the melody both directions, and I was like, go. It was totally a test of composition where it's like, I don't know if this is going to work. It probably won't. And it mostly did to the note. There were a couple notes I tweaked just slightly, but it's almost rhythmically and note value wise the same forward and backwards, and flipped upside down. So it was purely experimental of just, I haven't really seen this done much. Fred Grayman has done some stuff with it, with that idea, and it's great. And so when I was in theory at this time, I was like, I will give this a shot. And so it was cool to be able to have that melody flip, and it's really its own unique singable melody. That one can also get stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Um, and so
Yeah.
it's cool to have that juxtaposition of the two layering on top of each other. But it was purely just I don't know, it could be awful, but it worked pretty well, actually.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. That's so fun that you just were like, hey, let's just see if this works. And it did.
Yeah.
And it made it so it made it intellectually stimulating as well,
Well,
which is
thanks.
awesome. So I'm guessing you've conducted this piece once or twice, probably at
Mhm.
festivals and your own groups and whatnot. So what advice do you have for a director who's pulling this piece together?
Um, don't be scared of the tempo. A lot of the times, when it comes to fast pieces, we just immediately freak out with
Mhm.
it, both as ringers and then when we're also planning for directors, especially. We think of our ensembles and we decide, oh, this piece is really fast. I don't know if they're going to get it. The piece comes together very nicely, very quickly. The piece is structured very much in the way that patterns are everywhere.
Mm,
Even in the
yeah.
middle, in retrograde inversion section, that bass clef pattern is a 3-note repeated bass pattern. It just depends on the measure. There's one or two measures where the pattern slightly changes because of the chords, but it's very pattern based. And so you'd be able to structure the piece very nicely to where in the first section you can focus on the treble cascading eighth note lines. That works very nicely. The chord progression for the first and last section are identical. So if you can, when it comes to the mallet section, think of each measure as just one chord, except for the ones where it changes. It's just one note, but the pattern is the same almost through the entire section for the mallet. And so the piece is really accessible in that way, to where it's also a great piece to stretch your ensemble. If you go, oh, we mostly play level 2+3 pieces, this is a piece that isn't that hard to stretch your ensemble, and it's a very fun challenge to give them. Because then it also gives them a chance to work on dynamics and things like that, especially on the last page where I either have it as double or triple forte, where you still want to work on dynamic and musical structure with that section. So it gives that opportunity to really focus on that. Um, so I think that's kind of my first advice, is just don't be scared of how fast the piece is. You're able to break it down. And then from there, it's a piece that really allows you to focus on the interaction of the parts with each other. How does the melody interact with the people around them? And then the treble clef line. So it gives you a lot of focus of the very, very succinct ideas that are with each other. And then how can your ensemble latch onto those to create that successful performance eventually?
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think we should listen to it.
Yeah.
So here we go. Yay! I guess my blood going every time.
Thank you.
I love it. I love it. So fun. Thanks for joining us today. Brenda Austin is the handbell editor for Hope Publishing, where we are equipping musicians for excellence. Visit hopepublishing.com or call 1-800-323-1049 for all your music needs. For questions about this episode of Bring the Ring, contact Brenda at brenda@hopepublishing.com. Our show notes can be found on our Facebook page or in the comments below.